Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are going to be making giblet gravy. So the perfect topping for all of your Thanksgiving dishes is a delicious giblet gravy. And thankfully it's so incredibly easy and really cheap, especially if you've already bought your full turkey. Most of the time, turkeys will come with giblets inside of them. And you'll want to pull those out before you cook the turkey. Usually you are going to get a turkey neck, and that's pretty obvious. And you'll get this piece right here, which is the gizzard. And the other part that's usually in your turkey bag is a liver. Now, when you're making giblet gravy, you can use the liver or you don't have to use the liver. But when we're starting this process, don't cook the liver in the broth with the other parts because it can make your other parts bitter. If you're going to use the liver, you want to cook it separately and then chop it up and add it very last minute so it doesn't have time to really give that bitter tinge to your gravy. We just like to feed our liver to Zeus, our big guard dog. He loves them, and so we do that, but you absolutely can add it. It gives an extra nutritional value, and some people like that flavor to their gravy, but we're not going to use it today. The first thing you're going to do when you make giblet gravy, this is so incredibly easy. You're going to take your gizzard and you're going to take your turkey neck and you're going to put it in a saucepan, and we're going to cover this with about 2 inches of water. We're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat to a simmer for about an hour. And when that is done, I will see you back. All right, so we have our giblets out of our boiling water, and I kept that water. So it's over there cooling off, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chop up my gizzard and pull the meat off of my neck, and I will go ahead and chop that up as well. So let's get that done. Okay, so I got all this meat off the neck, and I can use that neck later. I'm going to put it in my bag of scraps for broth. So let's go ahead and chop this up. And really, how fine you chop it depends on how chunky you like your gravy. If you like super chunky gravy, leave it in bigger hunks. If you want it to be more fine, then you chop them finely. All right, I have this in a little bowl. I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to get started on my gravy. So let's head over to the stove. All right, I'm over at the stove, and I have a few things. I've got the giblets that we just chopped up. I have my old broth water that we cooked the giblets in. I have some tallow. Now, if you are cooking your turkey from scratch today, you can use the drippings from your turkey. We cooked our turkey for an earlier video. We smoked it, so I don't have the drippings, so I'm just using tallow. Any fat will do. You could use lard, you could use even some oil, but tallow, we like tallow. But like I said, if I had those drippings, I would use the turkey fat. I have extra broth. This is chicken broth, and I've got some flour. And also, last but not least, salt and pepper. So I'm going to get the stove on, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to melt this tallow in here. Like I said, if you have drippings, then they'll already be melted and gooey at this point. But I'm going to liquefy these real fast. All right, my fat is melted, and I'm going to make sure this is on a medium-low heat. And I'm going to start adding in a little bit of flour. Now, how much flour you add depends on how much fat you have. So really, you just want to add a little bit at a time to make sure, and you want the flour to get absorbed into the fat. And you want to add until your flour is moist. This is about the right texture right here. Now we're gonna keep cooking this until it browns a little bit. This is what we call our roux. Now you don't want it dark. If you've ever made gumbo, gumbo calls for a super dark roux. You don't need it that dark, but you do want it browned a little. That gives it a flavor. And at this point, it's a great time to salt and pepper the roux, because then you add a little bit of flavor to it. And you do want to continually stir this. It'll take several minutes for it to start developing that brown tinge, and you can even start seeing it now. And like I said, I don't want to do this super, super dark like gumbo. You just want to give it a little bit of that deep flavor. And that looks good. It's a little more brown than it's coming across on the camera lens, I think so. But here we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding my liquid. And I'm going to start with this broth that we cooked the gizzard and the neck in. And I'm just going to add it slowly and whisk it in. And here's my chicken broth. And again, this all is dependent on how much fat that you used in that beginning step, which is going to be different every time. And it's going to be different based on how many people you're cooking for and how big of a batch you want. So this is kind of an eyeball game to see when the gravy gets to the right consistency. You want this part to be liquidy, and then you're going to thicken it back up. So I'm going to add quite a bit of broth. I think this would be about 4 cups total, just to give you an idea, a ballpark. So this looks really good. This is nice and liquid. Everything is dissolved in. And now I'm going to start thickening it back up. I'm going to add some salt and some pepper at this point also. And this is going to cook on the stove. I mean, you want to keep stirring it consistently, but maybe 5 to 8 minutes around there. It's not going to take terribly long, but you do want to keep stirring it and make sure it doesn't get too thick. The thing with gravy is if it gets too thick, you can always add more liquid. And if it's too thin, you can always cook it a little more until it thickens up. So it's kind of foolproof, and everybody has a specific texture that they like. So if you like it a little more runny, you use it when it's a little more runny. And if you like super thick gravy, you cook it up a little bit more. So this texture looks just right. And don't forget, it's going to thicken up a little bit, so I don't want to get it too thick. And at this point, I'm going to pour in my giblets and stir those around and get them nice and mixed in there. I'm going to turn my stove off, and now it's ready to serve up. All right, so here we have our delicious Thanksgiving meal and our gravy, and it just pours over beautifully. Look at that nice chunky gravy. I hope this has been helpful. I know sometimes those simple dishes that everyone just always makes by rote, there's no written down recipe a lot of times. Sometimes it's good to have a step-by-step for them. So hopefully this gave you some tips and tricks, and I can't wait to hear all about what you're making for Thanksgiving and how your gravy turned out. If you are wondering how to make anything else, we have tons and tons of videos. We've got roast turkey and fried turkey and smoked turkey. We've got full Thanksgiving meal. We even have Thanksgiving meal on a budget for $25 that we did last year. So check out our Thanksgiving playlist. And if you enjoyed this and you want to hang out with our family some more, hit that subscribe button. We have all sorts of things coming up, and especially this season, we've got lots of babies coming to the homestead. We've got puppies that are due any day now. We've got baby goats coming. We've got baby chicks, all sorts of fun things. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and hang out with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.